So in this video, we're going to be seeing what happens when you have a reflection in the x-axis. So let's go through these two examples before us. So as you can see, we know that we have a reflection in the x-axis because we have a negative out the front here. So that's telling me, and I'm going to write this in, this is telling me right here that we have a reflection in the x-axis. Perfect. So that negative is very important. Once we've done that, we're now just going to find my amplitude, my period, my scale, and give this a sketch. So let's see how we go. Y, X. I've got my amplitude. My amplitude, remember, your amplitude is always a positive number. So you're not going to include this negative. It's just going to be 3. That means I'm going 3 up and I'm going 3 down. The period is found by going 2 pi over the coefficient, in this case of x, which is a half. How many times does a half go into 2? It goes in 4 times. So my period will be 4 pi. It's also a good idea to find what the scale is going to be. Remember, you find the scale by taking the period and dividing it by 4. So it's going to be pi. Okay, now it comes to sketching it. And this is where we need to be very aware of what we're doing. Let me first draw it without the reflection. If we were to draw it without the reflection, it would just look like a normal sine graph. Let me draw this nice and big. It would look like this. But we have a reflection. And what that means is it's going to look like it's been reflected across the x-axis. It will look like that. So not the green graph, the red one. So as you can see, it's been reflected across the x-axis. The period is 4 pi, so this is going to be 4 pi. And we know that the scale is pi. So this will be pi, this will be 2 pi, this will be 3 pi. Perfect, and just like that, we have drawn ourselves a very nice graph. Okay, let's come to our next one here, in which, again, we need to be aware of the reflection that's been taking place here, and it's because of this negative. This is telling me that we have a reflection in the x-axis. So just be aware of that. All right, again, we will find the amplitude, the period, and the scale, and see how we go. So the amplitude. Now, there is no number in front of it, which means the amplitude is just 1. Remember, it's never going to be negative, the amplitude. So I'm going 1 up, I'm going 1 down. The period is 2 pi over the coefficient of x, which is 2. That will cancel with that. The period is pi. And then my scale, and let me do this. This color, the scale is going to be pi on 4. Perfect. Now, this isn't very symmetrical, so let's see if I can do that. That looks a bit better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to draw a reflected cos graph. So it's not going to look like this. This is our normal cos graph. Instead, it's going to look like this. It's going to look like that. And the period is pi. Now, as you can see, my domain is from 0 to 2 pi, so I'm going to actually have to draw another one. And now I'm at 2 pi. This point here, this endpoint, will be 2 pi negative 1. I can then put in what my intercepts are going to be. Because my scale is pi on 4, this will be pi on 4. This will be 2 pi on 4. This will be, let me zoom in here, 3 pi on 4. This will be 4 pi on 4, which is pi. This will be 5 pi on 4. This will be 6 pi on 4. This will be 7 pi on 4. And this will be 8 pi on 4, which is the same as 2 pi. Then you just need to make sure that you simplify everything here. So this is pi on 2. And this is going to be 3 pi on 2. And we are done. So just make sure that you're satisfying that domain. So make sure you're always looking at the domain there to draw it accurately. That's why we had to draw another cycle in there. And just looking up at this one, this was to 4 pi, so that was just 1 as well. Perfect. So that is how you draw things with reflections in the x-axis. Hopefully you found this useful.